And Donald Trump has come into the White House on the promise of not entangling America in foreign wars. This is going to be a quagmire of a foreign war. And basically, American soldiers are going to go back dead.
I think America's been conquered. Do you want to
Zionists,
talk about the
Zionism.
Palestinians? The Palestinians ain't been conquered.
America's
the Palestinians
under-
haven't been militarily defeated, but the Americans sure have. What have they got on Trump? What have they got on
'cause
Elon
obviously
Musk?
they hacked-
Why doesn't Trump
Yeah.
release the Jeffrey Epstein files? He's talking about JFK. What have they got on Donald Trump? That's
All
what I
right.
want to know.
Good point.
I mean, didn't he go on the island? I'm asking a question. I don't know. I think so. I don't know. Why don't you release those files, Mr. Trump, Mr. Big Shot? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Muslims Uncensored with me and Roshan. Now, we're going to dive straight on into the biggest story which everyone's talking about, Donald Trump and his crazy plan for Gaza. A series of headline-grabbing statements were released throughout last night. And, I mean, you take your pick. Everything from Trump's plan to take over Gaza physically, to force displacing the entire population of the Palestinians in the besieged strip. Also comments about Iran and other issues, has caused an absolute tsunami of criticism, condemnation, concern, you name it, it's there. Let's dive straight on in and get your opinion, Roshan. Maybe I should just play it out because basically, I think unless people have seen it already, which I'm sure they have, you're just not going to believe what the guy said. I'll start off with the main headline, I think, which is the displacement and his comments on Gaza. We have Trump here. This was him speaking to press at the White House next to Netanyahu.
I also strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East.
So that was just a glimpse of his comments. There were many, many more, re-emphasizing, reinforcing his position. I mean, Roshan, it's flabbergasting to say the least.
He's clearly a nutter, isn't he? He's a complete nutter. And I know he's the president of the United States, but he can't make this happen. You know, I mean, what he said was incitement to a war crime. It's basically incitement to ethnic cleansing, and it's incitement to forced displacement. And under international law, these are war crimes. So basically, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, should immediately apply for an arrest warrant for Donald Trump. That's what they should do, because that's what he's saying, and he's the president of the United States. So he's one of the few people in the world that could possibly try to make this happen. But obviously, the Palestinians have just gone through 15 months of genocide, and that hasn't displaced them. We've seen 500,000 Palestinians go from the south back to the north, to their homes in the north. The Palestinians will not leave that land. You know, so if Donald Trump wants to force them to leave, he's going to have to kill all of them. He's going to have to kill 2 million people. and because they won't leave, and other countries won't take them. Egypt won't take them because Egypt fears destabilization. You know, they fear that a massive Palestinian population in Egypt will destabilize the country, perhaps even lead to the overthrow of the Sisi regime. And King Abdullah of Jordan feels exactly the same. Jordan already has 40% Palestinians living in the country, so they don't want to be overthrown.
We're going to talk about the Arab response to this because there has been a lot of movement from the Arabs. And I have a few things I want to say about the Arabs as well, but let's stick to what Trump's been saying initially. So basically, as you say, Trump has made absolutely clear that the entire 1.6, 1.8, however many millions of people are still living in Gaza, he's willing to take them all out.
Yeah.
He wants all of them gone. He wants to clear out Gaza. And basically he's talking about building condos there.
He wants
and
it to be like Dubai.
Making it like Miami in the Middle East. I mean, this guy seriously is deranged. But I wonder, maybe it's some kind of negotiating strategy. You know, maybe Trump's going in nuclear to shake things up because they're trying to negotiate something. Because I think
he has a history of doing that.
You know, Sheikh Omar Suleiman tweeted last night about this, and he basically said, "Okay, you want another Vietnam?" I'm paraphrasing. You want another Vietnam? Good luck, because the Palestinians ain't giving up that land. And you mentioned already,
look,
the Israelis tried to get the Palestinians off for decades.
Yeah,
they ain't budging. So, okay, this President Trump comes in, thinks he's going to bada bing, bada boom, change the situation. I don't think so.
Look, I mean, you know, how many Israeli soldiers went back in body bags? About 1,000 or something, all right, over the course of the last 15 months. So if the US tries to take over and occupy Gaza, US soldiers are going to go home in body bags. And quite frankly, the Israelis don't have much appetite for losing soldiers, do they? The Americans have less. And Donald Trump has come into the White House on the promise of not entangling America in foreign wars. This is going to be a quagmire of a foreign war. And basically, American soldiers are going to go back dead. That's what's going to happen. So it's impossible. And they're being bogged down in Iraq. That didn't go too well for them. They tried to invade and occupy Iraq. It didn't go very well. They tried to invade and occupy Afghanistan. They will not be able to succeed in Gaza. So you might be right. He may be kind of just presenting the worst case scenario to the Arab world to freak them out, you know, to absolutely freak them out. And then they might take something halfway, you know, whatever that is. So maybe it's a negotiating tactic, as you say.
Like, for example, he might want to be forcing the Saudis to finally normalize, for example.
Exactly.
So that's freaked the Saudis out big time. But what I want to ask,
Robert, can I just say one more thing?
I
mean, I've been reading a book on the history of Palestine in the last week, and one thing that is very apparent is the Israelis have used propaganda over the last 100 years almost to try to force the Palestinians to leave. And in certain circumstances, it's actually worked. During the Nakba, they intentionally massacred Palestinian civilians in certain villages like Deir Yassin. Then they broadcast it all over the place in the hope that Palestinians would flee. And in some cases, they did flee in 1947 and in 1967 as well. They didn't this time, because they know what this propaganda is. So this is scare tactics in the hope that Palestinians will leave. Of course, we know they won't leave.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, what I would say to Donald Trump, and this is someone who's obsessed with borders and territory and land and America, making America great again. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is, would he accept a man to take his wife for a couple of weeks and just have his way with her? I assume the answer is no. I mean, I know he's into freaky stuff and he's got a past or whatever, but I assume he's protected.
He's probably a swinger.
I can't remember. He is a swinger, but I assume if he is a man's man, he's not going to allow his woman, the mother of his kids,
or someone took his house.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, the reason I'm saying his wife is for a reason. I can't remember her name. The one with the Michael Jackson hat. Ivanka,
of course.
Right?
I know. Yeah,
whoever she is, whoever her name is, he wouldn't allow that.
I've forgotten her name as well.
Land is something which human beings have been fighting and dying for as the most precious commodity since time immemorial began.
Yeah.
And I would argue that land is even more precious than a woman, for example. Do you know what I mean? That is your home. That is what people fight and die for, even before money was invented.
Melania.
You know what I mean? Oh, Melania. Ivanka. I don't know which one.
I had to Google it.
I just picked a name of one of his women folk. But yeah, whatever her name is, Pizza Hut hat. That's what it looks like to me. If he's gonna protect her honor because he feels like, okay, I love this woman, this is my woman, I'm gonna protect her. land is even more important than that. How can he expect an entire people to surrender their land, which they've already been bleeding for decades, giving their own children, their own women for it? And he expects them to just go, okay, Mr. Trump, fair enough, we'll move over there to the Sinai, some desert bit of land that means nothing to us. No, the Palestinians are prepared to die, all of them, for that land. And the Israelis have tried to kill all of them for that land, and they're not succeeding in doing it. Do you know what I mean? The fact is, Trump needs to realize that this is a godly people, the Palestinians. This is the Holy Land he's dealing with, and he's on the wrong side. He's on the enemy side. So if he's a big Christian, I mean, listen to Tucker Carlson. Even Tucker Carlson has realized something. He realized that the Israelis are killing a lot of Palestinian Christians over there. And he went, do you know what? I'm not down for that. And he criticized them. He criticized them. So why don't Trump just grow a pair? I think America's been conquered. I think America's been conquered. Do you want to talk about the Palestinians? The Palestinians ain't been conquered. The Palestinians haven't been militarily defeated, but the Americans sure have. Did you see the footage where Donald Trump was showing gifting the seat to Netanyahu? He was holding the seat and letting him sit down like he was,
America is
butler for his master. America's conquered. I think America is totally conquered.
It's under Zionist occupation. There's no doubt about that.
We need to liberate
You
those
can tell that
Americans,
by the media. You can tell it by Hollywood. I mean, I was going through Netflix, or I think it was Netflix the other day, looking for films on the Holocaust, just counting them. I mean, there are like dozens and dozens, and there's no film on the Nakba. There's one or two on the plight of the Palestinians. And the whole country is completely Zionist-occupied land. And I was looking at the opinion polls as well. Now, in Britain, here, obviously we are very influenced by the Zionist lobby and the pro-Israel lobby here, especially the government. But in terms of public opinion, it's actually quite 50-50 now. It shouldn't be 50-50. It should be 100% pro-Palestinian. But it is actually around 50-50 in terms of sympathies for Israel and Palestinians. Whereas in America, despite 15 months of genocide, it is still... I mean, the support for Israel has gone down, but it's still a majority pro-Israel country. So that tells you everything.
Yeah, just look at how Elon Musk, initially he didn't know much about it, but when the genocide first began, his comments related to, well, if you kill a bunch of Palestinian kids, you're going to create a few new fighters. Do you know what I mean? Change their tune. And then literally he was conquered. He was literally another one mentally conquered because he buckled under pressure. I think
they blackmail. I think the Zionists blackmail a lot of these people.
What have they got on Trump? What have they got on Elon
obviously
Musk?
They hack.
Why doesn't Trump release the Jeffrey Epstein files? He's talking about JFK. What have they got on Donald Trump? That's what I want to know.
Good point.
I mean, didn't he go on the island? I'm asking a question. I don't know. I'm sure. I think so. I don't know. Why don't you release those files, Mr. Trump, Mr. Big Shot, who knows it all, sees it all, whatever?
Yeah.
I think he's conquered. I think he's totally conquered. I think they're all conquered.
I think the Israelis, they're obviously good at spying, aren't they?
The Palestinians ain't conquered.
They're good at the dark arts, all the evil things in the world. They're the best at. So they obviously hack people's phones, they spy on them. So who knows what they've got on Elon Musk and Donald Trump and others. But you know what? What I think's happened is Donald Trump has gone to places like the UAE, and he thinks it's a model Islamic society, because they've got condos, because they've got Starbucks and McDonald's, and people have a certain standard of living. Not the slave laborers, but the middle class people have a certain standard of living, and he sees that as the model of the future of the Muslim world. Where in reality, it's a consumerist hell, which has completely distorted Islamic values in every possible way. But yeah.
Yeah, we're going to talk now about the Arabs. One thing which we'll mention now is Saudi Arabia was coming up a lot last night in these talks. So
we're going to watch a bit more of what you had to say.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's hear. So Saudi Arabia was mentioned.
Yeah.
Questions were asked, and as a result of what Trump said about Saudi Arabia's involvement in all of this, Saudi Arabia are now in a very difficult position. They've been releasing statements. So let's hear what they have to say.
So Saudi Arabia is going to be very helpful, and they have been very helpful. They want peace in the Middle East. It's very simple. We know their leader and their leaders very well. They're wonderful people, and they want peace in the Middle East.
I think peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia is not only feasible, I think it's going to happen. I think if we had another half a year in your first term, it would have already happened.
True. Many more, I agree, many more nations.
I think you can't prejudge and pre-guess how we'll achieve it. But I'm committed to achieving it, and I know the president is committed committed to achieving it, and I think the Saudi leadership is interested to achieve it.
No. So the Saudis demanding a Palestinian state?
No, they're not. No.
Are they demanding a path towards a Palestinian state or any other recognition?
Everybody's demanding one thing. You know what it is? Peace. We want peace. We want people to stop being killed. But everybody's demanding one thing. Very simple, peace. And he wants peace also.
So basically this idea that the Saudis are involved, but also this comment at the end where he basically said the Saudis are not demanding a Palestinian state. He said, nope, not happening. Now, the Saudis did respond immediately. That night at 4 a.m, I saw their statement on Twitter. So they scrambled to action to clarify, re-emphasize that actually the Saudis have publicly said, to their credit, that they do want a Palestinian state. It's one of their demands for normalization, basically. We won't normalize or recognize Israel until the Palestinians get a statehood. So they believe in the two-state solution. I know, we'd criticize them on that anyway, but Trump went completely against the grain here and basically said, no, they're not into Palestinian statehood at all. They're not into it. So this creates new shockwaves and new headlines, Roshan. What do you make of it?
I think the Saudis are traitors, and I think they speak with forked tongues. They say one thing in public and another thing in private. Trump has probably told the truth there. He's probably divulged what they're telling him in private. Now, the thing to remember, Robert, is that the whole reason why October the 7th happened was because of the Saudis and their intention. You probably don't remember this now. People don't forget about this. But a few weeks before October the 7th, Crown Prince MBS Mohammed bin Salman gave an interview to an American broadcaster saying that he was on the verge of normalizing relations with Israel. And the Hamas leader, who's now dead, Ismail Haniyeh, said that was one of the 3 reasons why Hamas decided to attack Israel on October the 7th, to prevent Saudi Arabia from normalizing with Israel, because they knew that the Israelis would retaliate in a massive way and that would cause outrage across the Muslim world, and it would become politically impossible for Saudi Arabia to normalize. The leaders of Saudi Arabia are traitors to the Ummah. I think they could become, Mohammed bin Salman could become another Ataturk type figure, to be honest. You see how Ataturk changed Turkey from, the Ottoman Empire and Islamic Empire to an uber secularist pro-Western state. That literally could be the legacy of MBS if he's not stopped. So he clearly wants to normalize with Israel. He probably considers the Israelis to be his mates. They think like him, He has the same kind of vision for the future of the Middle East, a consumerist dictatorship, but a consumerist kind of dictatorship like the UAE is now, or a lot of these Gulf countries. So I believe that unless intolerable and unbearable pressure is put upon the leaders of Saudi Arabia, they will normalize with Israel. We just have to make sure that doesn't happen.
I wonder if part of this crazy plan for Gaza, these outrageous statements that were coming out, could be part of some kind of negotiation strategy that Trump's deploying to maybe force the Saudis to finally accept normalization. I don't know. But one thing I will say...
Even when they say about the Palestinians... Sorry, just to make this last point. Because they obviously publicly say it has to be a two-state solution, there has to be a Palestinian state. But, what will that Palestinian state look like? I'm sure they'll probably accept... a really, really neutered Palestinian state, which isn't really a state. It's a state in name only, but it's controlled by Israel, the economy, the sea space, the airspace. They'll probably accept that just because if it has the stamp of like a sticker on your forehead, Palestinian state, that's what they'll accept, and then they'll normalize with Israel.
Yeah,
it won't be a viable state.
We don't know. The fact is that the Saudis have held out longer than all the others for one reason or another.
Because it's more.
I think that they are obviously pushing the PLO's line, so they want the PLO's.
Why have they held out so long? In your opinion, why have they held out so long?
Well, I think, like you said, there is political pressure there. You say, like, for example, some MBS could be like an Ataturk, for example. Basically, I think that the Arabs, they've basically fought Israel in the past, right?
Yes.
They've lost every war, unfortunately.
But they fought.
They fought, absolutely. But what happened was, I think there is a line of thinking where fighting has failed, unfortunately, among Arab leaders.
Yes.
And obviously the US has helped that to develop with their despots and dictators or whatever. But I think basically what the Saudis are trying to do is to achieve something for the Palestinians via diplomatic lobbying behind the scenes. Now,
Crumbs.
what the Iranians would say is, well, that's stupid. You can't trust the West. You have to fight. But then if you look at the Iranian axis, it fought and lost quite badly. So what the Saudis would now stand up and say, well, you've had your chance and failed. Look at how fighting has got you.
No,
we need
Robert.
to speak to the Americans and lobby for something here.
If you look at this dispassionately, and I'll try and take myself out of kind of the not putting my Palestinian hat on here. The reality is both peace negotiations and fighting has failed. That's the reality. Apart from in certain circumstances where you could say that perhaps fighting did expel the Israelis from Gaza, in 2004 or whatever it was, I can't remember, and it did expel the Israelis from Lebanon as well in the year 2000, I think it was. So in limited cases it has worked, but generally both the arms struggle and the peace negotiations, because the Oslo process is all about peace negotiations. So the PLO gave up armed struggle in 1988. For however many years, 40 years, they tried armed struggle. They recognized that it failed, so they tried peace negotiations. Peace negotiations failed as well. So no one's yet come up with the solution. I don't pretend to have a silver bullet either. But the reason why Saudi Arabia hasn't normalized yet is because their strategy is to get all the countries they control or have influence over to normalize first, like the UAE, like Bahrain, like Morocco, like Sudan, like all these countries that already normalize, because they want them to test the ground for public opinion. Because obviously, if Saudi Arabia normalizes with Israel, then it's over. The Palestinian struggle is basically over, or the Palestinian cause is completely eliminated. So they want to only do it when it's politically apt for them to do it, so there's no backlash against them, both internally and externally. So that's their strategy.
Yeah, I just think that...
But they don't care about the Palestinians, Robert. They'll give it a charity, but giving billions of dollars is nothing to them. It's small change. They fundamentally do not give a shit about the Palestinians. I'm sorry for my language, but that's literally what it is. The leadership of Saudi, or the people of Saudi Arabia do, and the people of the Muslim world, but the leaderships are traitors. They do not give two monkeys about the plight of the Palestinians.
Yes, I get where you're coming from. You mentioned earlier about the Arabs not wanting the Palestinians in, like in Egypt or Jordan, because they're worried about their own security and stuff like that. But do you think that that's actually the reason? Because we all know that the Palestinians need to stay on the land. And I think the Egyptians, the Jordanians, they know that
they
displacement...
Don't care about the Palestinians either.
But it's not about protecting the Palestinians.
No,
because obviously, I think to be honest with you, I think if the Egyptians and the Jordanians believed that was in the best interests of what the Palestinians wanted, they may take them in. They already have taken in a lot of Palestinians, quite frankly.
Robert, I've been to both those countries.
Jordan's population is largely Palestinian.
Yes,
already.
But this is from 1967, a long time ago.
But I think that they understand, because they are from that region, they're actually natives, unlike the Israelis and the Americans, that the Palestinians want that land, and that the cause of the Palestinians is to keep and stay on the land. So the Egyptians and the Jordanians on this issue are actually supporting the cause by not just opening their gates to Palestine. You see what I mean? It's a hard one to argue, because what people turn around and say is, oh, Rob, but what you're saying, you want people to stay in Gaza and die. But the fact is, the jihad here is for the Palestinians simply to stay on the land, right? Not even necessary to fight, just to stay on the land until Allah creates a scenario where they're going to win. Do you know what I mean? So I just wonder if perhaps on this issue, maybe you're being a bit harsh.
No. I agree with you. The Palestinians should not leave that land. I know there are, it's hard to judge the ones that have chosen to do that, but even me, I felt that we had some stories over the last year on Five Pillars of Palestinians basically trying to get us to lobby them, lobby governments for them to leave Palestine. And I never wanted to do any of those stories, because I think Palestinians shouldn't leave, and they should die on that land. That's what I believe. Maybe sitting here in the comfort of the West, that's a hypocritical thing to say, but that's what I believe, because that's exactly what the Israelis want. And even during the Second World War, the Israelis, and they should understand this, because when the Jews were being massacred in the Second World War, they actually lobbied Western governments not to take them in because they wanted all them to go to Palestine because they wanted Palestine, eyes on the prize. And that's what the Palestinians have to do, eyes on the prize. They have to stay in Palestine.
Yeah.
But where I disagree with you with is that the Jordanians and the Egyptians are, on the face of it, supporting the Palestinian cause because they're doing the right thing by not accepting more Palestinians into their countries. But they're not doing it for the right reasons, because I've been to these countries and Palestinians are treated like dirt in Egypt. And in Jordan, I have less experience, but they're probably kind of second-class citizens there as well, you know. The leadership of these countries, they are their mindset is a pro-Western mindset. They're not, for me, they're not proper Muslims. They haven't got the interests of Islam at heart or the Ummah. They just want to maintain their kursis, their thrones, you know, and they realize that the country will be completely destabilized. If Palestinians come, then they see that as the Muslim Brotherhood entering Egypt or Jordan, which they see as an existential threat.
But don't you think on this issue, for example, Sisi in Egypt is actually risking his throne by stepping out of line? He's stepping out of line against Western foreign policy right now because Trump wants the Palestinians in Egypt. You know, he's surely going to offer them a lot of incentives to go along with that. But Sisi's actually going out of his way.
He'll walk a tightrope. He'll balance it somehow. Obviously, they get several billion a year in military aid from the Americans, so they won't want to upset the Americans so much. Look, if push comes to shove, Sisi will side with the Americans. But I think his hope is that he can see the danger from both sides. So I think his hope is he'll whip up public opinion. There'll be an uproar in the Arab world, and that will force Donald Trump to change his mind.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
It's not going to happen anyway. It can't happen. It's Donald Trump talking. It's not going to happen because even if he wants to make it happen, you know, there'll be so much opposition to it within America because they know it's going to be a quagmire. It's not going to happen.
Let's see how it goes. Basically, there is an article here on 5 Pillars. It just highlights the fact that Arab leaders from all of the major Arab countries, they are lobbying and pressuring Trump to ditch this suggestion of displacing Gaza. For whatever reason, you can debate that as we have, but they are applying pressure. Let's see where that goes because, the Arab world, including America's closest allies like the UAE and Saudi, they are rallying on this issue and trying to force Trump to ditch this.
Was there anything else from that press conference? Or we don't
there's two things. I mean, basically, Trump has revealed that if he should be assassinated by Iran, for example, he's basically left an order to totally destroy Iran. Right. So that's an order he's left. I actually have a clip of that. Let's just hear what he had to say about it.
Why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do, not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence, perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran.
Why has he got the World Cup in the background? Did Donald Trump win the World Cup?
I don't know. I don't remember the Americans ever winning it. But what might be more important to discuss than that weird trophy is the fact that, he's threatening to totally obliterate Iran.
Yes.
And, I mean, the guy was saying the other day
he was on a roll last
he's
night,
ready to make a deal with them.
I think he was sniffing cocaine before the press conference because he's on a roll, wasn't he? He was on a high.
Well, the guy never smoked a cigarette or to drink alcohol in his whole life. So who knows? But he's got energy from somewhere. I think he overdoes Coke. Like Coca-Cola, because he drinks Coca-Cola like I don't know, like 10 liters a day or whatever it is. So maybe the guy's just high on sugar. But basically, totally obliterating Iran. I mean, that's a great way to start negotiations.
Yeah, this was concerning alleged Iranian attempts to assassinate him.
For the record, would the Iranians assassinate him? Do you think that's true?
For the record, I don't believe the Iranians would try to assassinate him for a simple reason. They're arch pragmatists. We've seen that in their behavior towards Israel. You know, they go out of their way not to provoke a war with Israel. They go out of their way to do the most limited thing possible. Killing a president of the United States or an ex-president of the United States is the most provocative thing you could possibly do, which would lead to a war. So I just do not believe that Iran did this. They've indicted somebody. I don't know what the veracity of the allegations are. I assume that it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, again, it might be part of his strategy to pressure Iran, because he's implemented.
Oh, and they'll be pressured.
Yeah, he's implemented a new intense pressure campaign on
maximum
Iran,
pressure campaign.
Maximum pressure campaign, which Netanyahu was very pleased about. His master and commander Netanyahu was very pleased about that. But yeah, what do you make of it with Iran? I mean, do you think that there's going to be some kind of deal? I feel like the Iranians are open to negotiating with the West. That's what I feel right now, and I think that they're under a bit of pressure. I don't think that they have come out of the Gaza, the fight for Gaza, as well as perhaps they had hoped. Syria's been lost as well, and seems to be falling into American sphere of influence. I mean, what do you think? Do you think there's going to be some? I
think Iran is in the weakest position than it's been in for many years. So yeah, obviously they've lost Syria. They've lost a lot of their allies, the leaders amongst their allies. Obviously Hamas is weakened, not defeated, but weakened. Hezbollah severely weakened. So the whole Iranian axis of resistance is in severe trouble, basically, and it's lost its deterrence value. Iran itself allegedly has lost its air defenses. I don't know how true that is. These are Israeli claims. Yeah, so I think Iran is looking for some kind of deal. I mean, they could surprise us all by getting a nuclear weapon. I think if they did that, then the equation could be changed. And I think Iran needs a nuclear weapon. I've always been a person that has said that the Iranian public statements about not wanting to get a nuclear bomb were erroneous, because that's the only way they can guarantee their self-defense. Not a nuclear weapon to attack anybody, but to defend themselves, because it's the ultimate deterrent, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
However, the question is, can they do that without basically arousing the suspicion of the Americans and the Israelis? Will they be able to actually get a bomb before the Israelis and the Americans attack them and destroy any capability? That is the question. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, Trump has said many times that that's a red line for him, Iran getting nuclear weapons. So if there's even a slither of intelligence that slips out that Iran's on the verge of getting a bomb or whatever, then basically that means that Trump's going to have to okay
I think Netanyahu wants to go after Iran now. He sees Iran weaker than it's ever been, and I think he wants to take that window of opportunity to go for Iran. That's why they're probably going to play up talk about Iran being very close to having a nuclear bomb.
Yes, and absolutely. And I think this is something that's been going on for a while as well, the talk about assassination plots on key American...
You think it's false flag stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the Iranians...
Yeah, I do as well.
Yeah, it'd just be silly. Like they'd assassinate someone.
We both know Iranians, right?
Yeah,
and they're not risk takers. They're not gamblers.
Not like
they're
this,
extremely pragmatic, and they think through all the scenarios and all the possible repercussions. They wouldn't try to assassinate.
And the one thing that Iran has always got right, and I think is that they always speak the truth about, is they always say that they are not in Mexico or Canada or America trying to do attacks or threaten US interests. It's actually the Americans that are the threatening party here, because they surround Iran with military bases. Yeah. So Iran kind of is proud of that in a way. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but they see themselves as totally defensive. And I mean, we saw that in the Gaza thing. They're playing a defensive.
Well, I think in the Middle East,
that's their strategy.
In the Middle East, I think you could say it's an offensive strategy, but internationally, it's definitely a defensive strategy.
Yeah, that's what I think. Now, there's one more thing before we move on. This might change the mood a little bit. It was actually something quite funny which I saw. So basically, there was an Afghan reporter in the room whilst they were doing the presser, Netanyahu and Trump. And she decided to throw out there some kind of question about Afghanistan and women's rights. It was a bit hard to make out what she was saying, but Trump's reaction did create more headlines. So yeah, let's just hear it out and then we can react together.
Go ahead.
Our expectation from you. Do you have any plan to change Afghanistan situation? Are you able to recognize Taliban? Because I'm an Afghan journalist, Afghan suffered women Any comment about Afghanistan? What's your future plan for Afghan people, especially Afghan?
I have a little hard time understanding you. Where are you from? Oh. Actually, it's a beautiful voice and a beautiful accent. The only problem is I can't understand the word you're saying. but I just say this, good luck. Live in peace.
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, you and me are used to listening to Iranian accents, so we could understand, or Afghan accent, kind of Iranian Afghan. Probably speaks Dari, so the same language. But yeah, obviously this is probably an anti-Taliban woman, right? Anti-Islamic Emirates, I'm guessing.
I think so.
No hijab, makeup, and yeah, she probably wanted Trump to say something very anti-Taliban.
Yeah,
but he was like,
or something.
What you say? What?
He just basically,
Where are you from?
It's like, okay, yeah, I'll speak to you later, and then just moved on. But yeah, that was really funny because, again, it's like you said, she obviously was talking about, she mentioned women's rights. I mean, it was hard to understand her because she was sort of mumbling her words. And at one point, she asked him, are you going to recognize the Taliban? So I thought, oh, okay, so maybe she actually wants to ask like a legit question here. Are you actually going to work with this Taliban government? But no, I think, yeah, like you say, she was trying to get him to say something anti-Taliban. But yeah, it's so funny how all of these like secular, liberal, feminist, whatever you want to call them, Afghans that come to the West, and they literally are like, no, we want American flags to dominate Afghanistan, and they would attack their own culture. They'd say, no, Afghanistan's backwards and barbaric. We need McDonald's and Burger King, and we need our feminist freedoms and all this type of stuff. She's now gone to the West, and the leader of this thing that she thinks is so great literally shot her down in the most humiliating way in front of world press. Because he couldn't understand a word she's saying.
I think
and he literally had no respect. He wasn't like, oh, could you repeat the question? I really want to hear what you have to say. I love Afghanistan. He was just like, yeah, all right, yeah, bye. So yeah, I just think that she's been humbled and humiliated, as all Western feminists should be.
That was her moment
by a man.
That was her moment in the sun, wasn't it?
It's the most embarrassing
and
2-minute exchange.
It fell flat. But she's not a real Afghan. You're more Afghan than her. And do you remember when you said this? When you were criticising the Iranian opposition, you said, "Oh, I'm more Iranian than."
And they threw a right hissy fit.
So yeah, she's not a proper Afghan. No. Robert is more Afghan than her.
Let's face it. If I went to Afghanistan, inshallah, I will. You're going to send me there, I hope. I'm going to be welcomed. They're going to love me. I'm going to love them. I'm there to learn about their culture. I value their culture. I'm not there to just kiss the ass of Donald Trump or whoever else. You know, I'm there to praise and love the Afghans. She's not. I'm more Afghan. Give me a passport. Oh, that is jokes. Have you seen that lady in Pakistan? The American woman in Pakistan?
No, what was that about?
So basically, there is
some online romance or something.
Basically, the catfish got catfished, I think. So some American woman.
What's a catfish?
Oh gosh, you've got to. I forget. You live in a.
I'm older than you.
You live in a medieval cave somewhere.
I'm from. Yeah, I'm from a generation that doesn't. I'm not into tech speaking.
Yeah, you don't know anything online.
What is a catfish?
So basically, a catfish is someone who goes online and they like try and find someone like a partner and to get married and to start a life or whatever, but they lie about who they are. It's called catfishing. So you think you found like a 10 out of 10 babe or whatever with loads of money and it's going to make you rich. You meet her and then it's like some old granny who's got do you know what I mean? You've been catfished, bro. So basically that's a catfish. Now what I think happened, this is what I know from the story, as a Pakistani brother, for whatever reason, was trying to catfish, I think, an American lady.
Yeah, for a passport.
Probably for a passport. This was his chance. Out of nowhere, she showed up in Pakistan, this auntie. And she's like looking for him. Yeah. And he don't want to see her now.
Oh, and she's holding press conferences outside his house or something like that.
For some reason, I don't know how it escalated, but all Pakistan media and Pakistan as a country is mobilized to sort of cater for this woman. And she's completely nuts.
Saying he talked too much. That's it.
Yes, that's it. Yes, I'm saying. ये भी देखें यही मेरी बात की तारीफ
कर रही है. You talk too much. It's not.
Come here, please come here.
Listen.
Shh. Please.
Be quiet. I'm not sitting down. My plan is to reconstruct this whole country, okay? I'm asking for 100K or more. I need 20K by this week, okay? In my pockets, in cash, okay? That's a demand to the government. The government is gonna fix up these buildings, fix up the streets, and clean up these streets. It's ridiculous out here. I do not like it. Like I said, Pakistan needs to be reconstructed the right way. Do you hear me, guys? Make sure y'all get this on your camera. I'm married to Nidel Hamid. I'm Onaija Hamid. We are moving to Dubai very soon. We're going to have our baby in Dubai. It's private. I'm Muslim, and it's against my religion to tell y'all my business. Have a nice day.
She's completely nuts. She's saying she wants land. She's demanding 20K
Does she still
a
want to know
week.
him? She still wants to know him, or what?
She said they're married. She said they're going to have babies in Dubai.
How did they get married? Over the phone, or have they met? Have they met?
I have no idea. She camped outside his house apparently for a week, and he refused to see her. Something like that. I don't even know.
So they have actually met in real life.
They met online, I think.
Yeah.
I think the second he laid eyes on her, he ran for the hills. His mum don't want her to meet him ever. So
But did she say
he's
she's
gone
pregnant?
into hiding.
But didn't she say she was pregnant or something?
No, I don't think she's pregnant,
Oh.
but she wants to have babies with him.
Dubai.
She wants to have babies in Dubai. She's been called the Queen of Pakistan, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And she's like asking for 20K a week from the government. She wants land. And she's refusing to leave, Roshan. She's refusing to leave.
Why you come in Pakistan?
I demand from the government more than $5,000 in USD to make Pakistan a better place. Good night.
Where are you from?
I'm from here.
You're from America?
I'm from here now.
You're from here now. What's your plan?
My plan? I just told you to make Pakistan a better place, to build houses and make better hotels, and bring food into this country.
Why you don't go back your country?
That's none of your business, and I don't know what you're talking about. Good night.
Someone needs to tell this sister, this ain't how Hijra works. I wish it was. I wish I could go there and ask for 20K a week and Pakistan's just going to give it to me. Do you know what I mean? But
Sounds quite reasonable to me.
But she's now the most famous woman in Pakistan. I just wanted to mention this because this story
Let's put a picture over
is
this discussion
hilarious.
because people know what we're talking about.
Yeah, we will. I'll put in all the videos. Well, I think we've discussed it now. Let's go on to something pretty serious that's going on.
Right.
Quran burning, something which has been happening in Europe. It's become a hotspot for Islamophobic desecrations of our beloved holy text across the European continent, particularly in Scandinavia. Now it's arrived in the UK, Roshan. I'm very sad to say. A horrific upsetting, traumatizing incident occurred in Manchester a couple of days ago, where someone filmed himself, live streamed himself, waving an Israel flag and desecrating and burning our beloved holy book. There's no other way to describe it. Police acted quickly. They arrested him. He spent a day in court, and as you can see from the article, he's admitted to a public order offence. And the man behind it, who has been named, Martin Frost, 47, claims that the trigger which led to him taking this action was that his daughter had been killed in Israel as part of the ongoing war there. They didn't go into any more details than that, but he's got some kind of Israel link. He obviously supports Israel, and he said that he's got mental health, and that was the reason behind it. But obviously this comes just a couple of days, maybe a week after a notorious, infamous Quran burner in Sweden was killed under suspicious circumstances, Salwan Momika. And again, we're not sure exactly who killed him, but many are speculating it's because of, what he's famous for, which is Quran burnings and that type of thing. Swedish police are investigating that killing, but they actually released the 5 suspects that they initially arrested in relation to the killing. So they're actually no closer to finding out the reason or who actually killed Salwan, this Quran desecrator. But he was famous in 2023 to 2024 for basically sparking humongous Muslim protests worldwide because of his public displays of Islamophobia and desecrating our beloved holy text. So that's basically the story, Roshan. What do you make of it? I think we all feared this day was coming, that Quran burnings were going to come to the UK. Attempts have been made previously as well.
Look, all right, so going back to the killing of Salwan Momika. So I think, obviously, no one's condoning taking the law into your own hands. But I think there's failings from the Swedish authorities here, because they should not have let him burn the Quran. this is a despicable act, which is incitement to violence. It's incitement. And this was the argument that was made for years to the Swedish authorities. And I think the Danish authorities heard that argument. I think they changed the law, didn't they? In Denmark, did they change the law?
The Danish authorities have changed the law,
Yeah, so Quran burning is illegal in Denmark now.
Yeah.
Whereas in Sweden, it's still allowed. And not only that, he was doing it outside mosques, outside embassies. He's burning the Palestinian flag, and he was doing it in close proximity to Muslims under police protection.
Yes.
So obviously Muslims are going to be really triggered by this. Now, he was shot, I think, during a TikTok live stream.
Yes.
We're not condoning that at all. But what happened. The thing is that it's a little bit suspicious because it's a week afterwards, so publicly executed, and they haven't found who the killer is. So the 5 suspects were arrested, but they were released, within a few days because the case against them was apparently non-existent. They've had murmurings about this might be linked to a foreign actor, but no further details. So it looks like the Swedish authorities have no idea who killed this guy. So I don't think we should jump to conclusions as well. But unfortunately, the Manchester guy did mention him in his speech before he burned the holy book. He did say that he was doing it in solidarity with his friend Salwan Momika. Now, I would just like to pay tribute to the police. For the first time in my life, I'm actually going to say something nice about the British police. I think Greater Manchester Police acted with responsibility and quickly and promptly, and they did a good job. So they've sent out a clear message that this is a public order offence. I don't think we don't have blasphemy laws in this country, but we do have public order offences. So this is incitement to violence, and that's what it is. Because obviously the Quran is something that is so dear to us. It's more dear to us than our own families, than our own children, quite frankly, So this is how Muslims feel about the Quran. That's not going to change. There are millions of Muslims in this country, and we live in a multicultural society, and that means that all of us have to maybe button our tongues sometimes. We might feel a certain way. Now, we as Muslims in this country, we feel very strongly about certain things. Whether that's, I don't know, naked women on billboards or the gambling industry or abortion. And we might express an opinion about that, but we don't go down burning abortion clinics, or we don't do violent acts or incendiary acts. We don't burn the British flag, for example. I mean, some of us might, but the general Muslim community doesn't condone that kind of action. So we live in a multicultural society, and the Greater Manchester Police have sent out a clear signal that if you do this kind of crap, you're going to be arrested. You're going to go to jail. I hope this guy goes to jail. He should go to jail. And I would say the same thing, Robert, if it was a Bible or a Torah. I'd be calling for a jail sentence, because these are also holy books. Other religions, millions of people in this country believe in them. So if a Muslim tried to burn the Torah or the Bible, I'd be the first to call for that guy to be arrested and given a jail sentence. Unfortunately, Christians probably wouldn't do that. It'd be Muslims calling. If a Bible was burnt outside a church, it'd be Muslims defending Christianity from that point of view. It wouldn't be Christians.
100%. There's no doubt about that. I mean, the interesting thing is that there has been a few examples of Christian texts being desecrated as well, here and there. There's actually like a satanic church as well that do these weird Christian bashing. And occasionally there was a few stories, like I think about a year ago, which I reacted to at the time on YouTube. Like Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, his image was being desecrated in America by celebrities and things like that. They do dumb stuff, artistic stuff, and it's stupid. They were insulting the prophet, who they believe is like Christ, Christ on earth or whatever. And again, there was a minimal reaction from Christians, but a pretty overwhelming reaction from Muslims online who were condemning it and speaking up for
defending the honor of Jesus.
Defending the honor of Jesus. So absolutely, again, Muslims, people always say, oh, if a Muslim did this, they wouldn't go to jail. If a Muslim did this, Muslim did that. But the fact is, Muslims don't do it. We don't do it because we actually have more respect for your own religious text than you do. Do you know what I mean? So you're absolutely right to say that. But one thing I do want to mention, just generally, I'm not speaking about any individual or whatever, but one thing that needs to be pointed out as well, anyone watching as well who perhaps is non-Muslim, Muslims will probably understand this point. a lot of these people who are self-claimed ex-Muslims or Islamophobic people who like to desecrate and all this stuff, inciters, this and that, normally they're basically weirdos. They're weirdos or they have mental health issues. This gentleman in Manchester is saying that he has a history of mental health issues. But just in general, like a lot of these ex-Muslims, I don't believe there is such a thing, to be honest with you, as an ex-Muslim. They were never Muslim to begin with, Roshan. But the fact is they claim that they were ex-Muslim, they've left the faith. Normally they're weirdos. And you get a lot of, like, for example, Arabs who leave the Middle East and they become dissidents in the West and they become
probably looking for passports,
feminists and
aren't
that.
they? Yeah.
You'd be surprised. They're actually normally they have mental health issues. I'm not actually attacking them because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you've got mental health issues,
you need a doctor.
You need to be put in an asylum.
Yeah.
God bless your heart, because you don't know what you're talking about. And what happens sometimes is some of these weirdos and mental people, they get platformed by the Islamophobia industry, and they become like online sensations, celebrities, stuff like that.
But they're actually just weirdos.
No, they're weirdos and they have mental health issues. Some of them I think are undiagnosed, but generally I think if you ever met any of these people, they're just weirdos.
Some of them look like the devil as well. Who's that Mossad guy? The guy who spied from Mossad, the Palestinian guy.
He looks like
he actually looks like the devil.
He looks like he had a lobotomy. I'm sorry. He looks completely like just not normal. It's not normal for some reason or other.
The only thing I would say on this is, I agree with you. I think it's weird how ex-Muslims, they kind of make that part of their identity, don't they? Whereas, people that are no longer Christians or Jews, they just get on with their lives.
They don't identify as ex-Christians.
Ex-Christians or ex-Jews.
They just identify as what they are.
They're just obsessed. They're obsessed for some reason.
And that's stalkish, weird behaviour. No, they're not normal.
And they get a lot of encouragement by the racists and Islamophobes in this country.
Yeah. They make money. They make money.
Yeah.
If you go on TikTok, Roshan, there's loads of weirdos on there, and they do all sorts of stuff. There's to be honest with you, there's 100 mamikas or whatever, and they're just weird. I don't want to bless them, but they're weird.
The thing I would say is that we did describe this guy, this mamika, as an Iraqi Christian. I think, to be accurate, he was a Christian, but I think he became an atheist afterwards. So I don't think it's fair to call him an Iraqi Christian anymore.
I don't even know. The guy was just, like you said, the Swedish authorities should have... he basically went there as an asylum seeker and then just turned Sweden into a hotspot for incitement and protest and Quran desecrations. And the Swedish people, they didn't actually want that. Polling at the time in 2023 said they didn't even back what he was doing. So he just went to this country, which was the most peaceful country in Europe, and just turned it into a hotspot for his own self.
Allah will judge him. But you know what I want to say, the final thing I want to say is that, just to talk a little bit about the Quran, and for the Muslims, and hopefully if you're non-Muslims watching as well, if you're a non-Muslim, let this inspire you to read the Quran. So obviously the Quran is an Arabic Quran, and it can only ever be an Arabic Quran, but you can read the translation and the meaning of the Quran, and you can get to know it and get to know its wisdom and its beauty through its words. So I would encourage you to use this as an opportunity to read the Quran and to acquaint yourself with the religion of Islam. And to Muslims, I would say make the Quran part of your daily life, not just in Ramadan, where you're reading it every day and digesting its wisdom and, imbibing the beauty of its language. But this is the literal word of Allah. This is the unchangeable, immutable word of Allah. Its language is divine, its message is divine, its wisdom is divine. It's literally a guide for our lives. We shouldn't be having it on a top shelf. We should literally be reading it every single day. Even if it's only 5 minutes a day, even if you can only read one page or 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. I personally use an app. I'm not been paid to say this, but I use Quranly. One of my friends developed it. So the Quranly app, put it on your phone and stick it on a timer. If you're a lazy person like I am, 5-minute timer. Read the Quran. Everyone can spare 5 minutes or 10 minutes in your day. And I tell you what, if you stick to that habit of reading 5 minutes a day, that 5 minutes will become 10 minutes. 10 minutes will become 20 minutes, half an hour, etc., and then you will see your life transformed.
Inshallah, that's fantastic advice, actually, especially as we approach the holy month. That's the type of thing we got to invest in and get back on top form for. So yeah, absolutely. Basically, I think we've discussed plenty today. We are going to bring the show to an end, I think, but we have some good content coming up. I believe there's going to be a break, so just bear in mind.
a couple of weeks, brothers and sisters. Both Robert and I are out of London basically for the next few weeks, so we're not going to be anywhere near a studio. So we're going to have a break of at least 2 weeks and come back probably just before Ramadan. If there is an emergency, we can always go online and do something. But yeah, you're not going to see us in this lovely studio for a few weeks, inshallah.
Inshallah, but we're going to come back because obviously, as I say, the holy month is fast approaching. So get ready, as we will bring you more content, of course, from Muslims Uncensored and from everywhere else on Five Pillars, whether it be Dilly's Blood Brothers podcast or our regular reporting on our website. So until next time, it's Salamu Alaikum and Ma Salama for now.